stick with his team and a quarterback who's sticking with the team, and I don't think you necessarily are too happy about this.
Yeah, so the Dallas Cowboys finished the season on a disappointing note, losing the wild card round to San Francisco at home. And Mike McCarthy was thoroughly outcoached in the game. They started slow, bad game plan, bad preparation. You could tell, bad clock management at the end, the dumb penalties, the lack of discipline. That all goes back to the head coach. And I really, really think that McCarthy, based on the merits of his performance, probably deserved to get fired. But there's another side to this. So one of the things, taking some classes, when I was trying to get my MBA a few years ago, when they talked about evaluating things on business decisions, they say, there's a principle, all things being equal, you make certain decisions. But in the real world, not all things are being equal. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. If everything was stable and consistent with Dallas and all you could do is get rid of McCarthy and just find another guy, they'd probably do that. But the reality is both coordinators, Kellen Moore on offense, Dan Quinn on defense, are probably going to leave or high likelihood of leaving to take head coaching jobs. They're going to take some assistants with them. They've got Ezekiel Elliott's contract, and he's probably going to have to take a pay cut or he's going to get cut. They got Amari Cooper. They got DeMarcus Lawrence. They need to restructure those deals. They got a bunch of free agents, Randy Gregory, Dalton Schultz. They've got a bunch of guys that are potentially on their way out of the team. It's going to be a completely different team next year. And Jerry Jones is looking at, all things being equal, if everything would have stayed the same, he probably replaces McCarthy. But he looks at it right now. And he's like, look, there's going to be a lot of volatility. Our coaching staff's going to look different. Our roster's going to look different. We've got to keep some level of consistency because you don't want to be Washington. You don't want to be the Giants. You don't want to be the Jets. You don't want to be the Jaguars. You want to have some level of consistency and stability. And I think that's why he's sticking with McCarthy. I don't think he thinks he's performing well as a head coach. I think he feels because so much is changing, they got to have some stability, and they're sticking with McCarthy.
And it's almost like the Panthers' approach, but the Panthers is a small market team. Dallas is a big market team where any coach would probably love to come to. But like you said, rules staying, but everything else is they've gutted the entire team around him. Keep one commonality through the team. Let's get them through the next year, and then once you have something else established in place, go on and make your cuts and keep it moving. But like you said, McCarthy, the one thing that I can say about McCarthy that I have noticed throughout this year and last year, his game management's pretty awful. His usage of timeouts in crucial situations is awful. Some of his crucial play calling, pretty terrible. So like you said, I'm not the biggest fan of his, so I could see how people are bitter about McCarthy staying around. I can see where Jerry's coming from. Typically in the past, he's been a pretty savvy general manager for the most part. But like you said, Dallas is wanting some success. Their last big playoff win, I guess, was when the 90s.
Well, yeah, I mean they've won a few playoff games, but their last deep run was the 90s, 1995.
So I think I think knowing Jerry Jones, he's getting up there in age. I think before he either passes away or passes on the team to his son or someone but like that, he wants to make another shot at a Super Bowl. And I don't think you can do that by hanging on to Mike McCarthy because you don't have Aaron Rodgers. That's the only way McCarthy was able to get there.
I will say this, the thing with Jerry Jones is he's been here before where he's made big splashes. He pulled Bill Parcells out of retirement, 2 playoff appearances, no deep playoff runs. He replaces Bill Parcells with Wade Phillips, a player's coach, no deep playoff runs, a couple playoff wins, nothing special. So then he promotes the young hotshot offensive coordinator at the time, Jason Garrett. We all know how that worked out. So now he's went back to McCarthy, a guy who's kind of been there before, sort of a stabilizing influence. And I think he says, look, we brought the old guy out of retirement. Parcells didn't work. We went with the players coach. It didn't work. We went with the young hotshot offensive coordinator. It didn't work. I think Jerry Jones right now is like, look, we just got to let this play out. Because, I've been here before where I've changed coaches and it hasn't worked out. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. Maybe McCarthy executes better. Maybe Prescott plays better. I don't think it'll work out in terms of making a deep playoff run, but I understand where Jones's mindset is just because he's like, look, what are we going to do? We're going to replace Mike McCarthy with another Jason Garrett. Is that better? Not really. I mean, you're kind of stuck if you're Dallas, at least for next year.
Yeah, no, I think you're in between a rock and a hard place, and I think Jerry's done the best thing that he could do. Like you said, brace for impact. You're gonna lose your coordinators. Gotta adjust from there. You'll get a lot of people back from injury this year. Let's just see what they can do next year. Do you have anything else?